Not yet? Okay, we are live. Goody.
Okay. You want to go first, or do you want?
Yeah, so production, if anyone doesn't know who are those clowns on the video. First clown is Eyal Lior from Israel, anarchist, anarcho-capitalist or voluntarist, vegan, activist from Israel, host of the No State Project Israel, the Israeli version of MArc Stevens' No State Project. And with me from New Zealand is וויליאמס. And we're here to discuss some legal tactics or tactics to deal with the court system. To be specifically, Alan wants to discuss how to impeach a cop, and I want to discuss the whole effectiveness of doing the court thing, going to court and fighting the system, resisting the system by going to the court. This will be also part of our conversation today.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I'm led to believe that from what I see, there's certainly a wobble in the matrix, and the wobble starts, I believe, that with the cops having some kind of play on people's general ignorance. People are generally ignorant of the so-called law, what the cops say is the law, and things like that, and the cops play on this because they know that most people are not. I suppose there's a combination of being willfully ignorant and just ignorant. The cops are obviously schooled and educated in jumping on somebody's. So in the US, for instance, the Fourth Amendment, the right to be free from warrantless search and seizures. It's certainly the case whereby the police officers, the same as the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, all these so-called Western democracies, the cops are schooled and taught how to play on people's ignorance. So that's the beginning of it. At the cop stop, where a lot of people say about not playing with 5-year-olds with guns on the side of the road, and such like. Well, I can agree to that to a certain extent, but unless you're actually recording these guys at the very, and I'm sure you might have a bone of contention here, with actually recording the cop at the cop stop. So over to you on that point if you want to discuss that.
Well, yeah, go ahead, start with it. I just want to add one more thing that I forgot to say in the introduction, that the whole idea of dealing with cops and if it is catching them on camera or bringing it to court and not just merely complying, the whole idea is to bring about a voluntary society, to promote the idea of a voluntary society of human liberties and justice. And it's not merely about the effectiveness of the single interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about bringing about which is the end, I wouldn't say it's the end goal. The end goal of the. I mean, I suppose I would be a wannabe anarchist. I'm not like yourself, where you actually walk the walk every day, but and I do see arguments on both sides, but I tend to go with the idea of voluntarism, because people have this misconception of what anarchy looks like, and they then turn to the idea of chaos, which is obviously what we know. It's not chaos at all. It's rules without rulers. We all agree to voluntarily go about our daily lives where we employ the non-aggression principle, the no harm principle, and then voluntary society will flow on from then. But though the stickler is between where we are now in the so-called democracy, which is, it's a very poor idea of freedom, in my opinion, is that we have to start somewhere, and that's making those that are in so-called positions of perceived power. How do we make those accountable? So if we're not holding their feet to the fire for their own rules, and we're not exposing their own double standards to begin with, it's kind of leaving us in a position whereby we are we're becoming ineffective. So the most effective way, I believe, is to begin with, is to record them and what they say concerning their double standards.
Yeah, so it's holding them accountable to the law that they are supposed to respect. So it's recording the police interactions and everything. Like, we have many cases here in Israel that drivers were driving with the cameras, and in the camera you can see that they drive 100% legally. They stop at the stop sign, start driving, and a cop stops them, tells them like you didn't stop, you didn't reach full stop on the stop sign. And in the video you can see that the cop wasn't even looking at the junction. So I don't think this, I mean, it's good that people have this, but it's not really leading us towards freedom. It's just, you know, leading us towards the rule of the law of men. You know, what is the law if not law of men? So
there's something I want to touch on there that I've often heard you say that. And I heard you say this with Mark a number of times when I've listened to you with Mark. You actually said that, self-admittedly, and I agree, that we are dealing with a bunch of liars and thieves. That's ultimately what they are. They are liars and thieves, and they have guns and have badges, and they are not the kind of people who are going to be honest with us. We know this. If anybody's had an interaction with a cop on the side of the road,
they were not brought up on these values.
What's that? Sorry.
They were not brought up, raised on these values of saying the truth.
Exactly. So what I'm advocating is that people, in my last, as you know personally, you know, I've had, from what I've told you, I've videoed the last, I think it's 10, maybe, there have been 11 issues that I've had with cops coming to my door unwarranted. Nobody's called them from here. And there was one instance when I was asleep. It was 1:30 in the morning, and my wife and son were watching some British football, what the Americans call soccer, and we got a knock on the door. I was in bed, as I say, and then I had five cops at the door demanding that I come downstairs. So they wanted to identify me, whoever that me was. I didn't identify myself, and that was the reason why they took me away for obstruction. And this is, you know, it's resulted in kind of like a little bit more of a messy private life than I first originally. I didn't actually want, to be fair. And then after that time, it became worse and worse for a few more years after that. Where if I dropped a pin in the house, or a pin was dropped in the house, I would have cops trying to intervene in my life with a foot in the door, which that's not conducive to a happy, healthy family home. There are issues around that. I won't go into those issues, but I have done with you, and you know what I've talked about in terms of people in the local vicinity. But other than that, it's how I controlled the damage at the time that was presented to me. And I found the best way to do that was with a video camera and asking the cops to explain why they were where they were at the time, and what evidence did they have that they had any issues with me. And I asked them this when they were under the full under the full direction of the video camera. And then there was not just my camera, then there was a second camera and a third camera and a fourth camera, and it ended up with the cops basically walking away, essentially just walking away from the stop. And it wasn't so much a stop, it was more of an, I'd class it as an invasion, really, which is worse. I believe I've been stopped on the roadside, but to actually have your home invaded, and a guy telling you that he's got every right to do so, which, you know, that's what I'm an advocate for filming the police at every point in time, because, you know, the worst they can do is kill me. Harsh, eh? So that's my thoughts on
those body cameras now.
Yeah, but then well, here behind me, is my FOIA documentation from the cops. So I FOIA'd the cops. Now, I'll be honest with you, the reason why I FOIA'd them was for a number of reasons. The other one is from their own methods and practices. They said that due to me violating their so-called laws, that they can essentially revoke my gun license. And so I'm in the process of trying to get that back. But if they make no mention in my FOIA, my Freedom of Information Act request, of the incidences that I've got on camera. They make no reference in their response to my Freedom of Information Act request as to what actually happened on those times when they came here. They make no reference to the videos that I've got. I've actually got them on video, and they make no reference to that. So if we're trusting in cops to make an accurate and complete record of the stop or the home invasion, or call it what you will, they make no reference to that. So I can tell you I can tell you from my experiences alone, and this is not legal advice at all or anything like that. This is just for the purposes of entertainment and uplifting humanity, whatever that looks like. They did not give me a full package of information of exactly their interactions with me.
Sure, I had a friend that had this situation with neighbors that keep calling the cops and make false accusations. There is no way out of it unless you just film your whole life on video camera. And I think that it's quite cheap today to do it. You can get a decent camera for $25 from China. Yep. Hang it like a 360 degrees camera.
Yeah.
And you can it can save all the recordings for like a month or something, and you can connect it with the cloud service. So even if the cops take the camera, it's still saved on the cloud. Yep. It's something like $5-6 a month, and you put it next to your door, and it's gonna video record all the interactions. So there's that. Because if you're that in such a complication with the cops that they're visiting your home and trying to just annoy you and trigger you, and they use everything to annoy you, then there's no other way out
That's what it became. It became a point where it seemed to me, from what I experienced, so for instance, that time when they came at 1:30 in the morning, I was in bed, family were fine, wife downstairs with the son, watching some English Premier League football, knock on the door, 5 patrol officers at the door, wanting to identify me. Now, in my FOIA, all that big information there, there's no mention of that. There's no mention of that at all. Not one single stroke of evidence that I have on video, and it's not the first time; it's multiple times. Mm-hmm. But I've got videos of these cops knocking on my door, and I've met some. I don't think there's any such thing as a good cop. There are better cops or more reasonable cops, but there's no such thing as a good cop. You know, you can't have a benevolent dictator. That's for sure. And so the thing is, the first part in the judicial process for me is the cop stop or the cop interaction. We'll just call it the cop interaction, whether it be at the side of the road, whether it be in McDonald's. You know, no, I didn't say the whole word. I don't want to be anybody looking at me. You know, on the side of the road, in the fast food restaurant, or, you know, in your home.
On the road.
You know, so if it's on the road, I give you for instance for that. So I walked out of my door and I went to see a friend, and he was in hospital, and I got to the T-junction. Now I drive a large 4-wheel drive which has got a rocking motion, so the wheels stop when you brake. You get to the stop sign. You know, you stop, you look left, right, and then when you're clear, you pull out. Well, there was a black Ford. No, sorry, Holden. I think yeah. New Zealand cops use Holden vehicles. Black unmarked cop car. I pulled out. They pulled it right behind. I saw the cop, but I thought it was unmarked. Didn't realise. So he pulled out, put his lights on, pulled me over, and no less, it was the inspector of the local constabulary, the highest paid guy locally. And he walks across to me, and I said to him, "I know why you pulled me over," and I pointed to my radar. He said, "No, you didn't stop." Well, I articulated that I did and asked him for proof. He said, "Well, I'll see you in court." I said, "Okay, well, I'll take the ticket and I'll see you in court." Well, in the initial hearing, which the American call the arraignment, the officer was asked, "Did he have any witnesses?" So, I mean, this was before I've been following MArc Stevens' work for 18 years, but this was before I got into role play stuff. So I said, "Okay, well, better the devil you know, I'll have my fair day in court," which is obviously no such thing. So I go to court, and then the officer's asked by the prosecution whether he has any witnesses to bring. Now, at the initial hearing, the cop said no, and then he completely perjured himself by saying, "Yes, he got a witness." Now, I know there was no other witness at the stop that I saw, but he magically invented somebody in the cop car that basically also saw what I didn't do. Well, $150. Well, it was. I pled originally not guilty, so to go to the trial, and then when I realised that I was in a situation that I would never win, I went back and I pled guilty and got the same kind of fine as I would have had. So it's the point where the cops are now magicking witnesses out of the ground, whereby there's really, the only way I believe that we can actually do things, Eyal, is by this. The only way we can actually, and it's a sad day, but the only way, and as you say, the only way is to video record the whole of your life. Now, I took my old dog a walk, bless her, wherever she is, love you, Pepper. Took her for a walk over the reserve in the corner, and I forgot my phone. Halfway down the alleyway, I turned around and went back for my phone, because when you're in nobody's got the right to privacy in public, and the cops will invade that, even your own home. Sorry to take up so much airspace there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't drive with a camera because I'm with the motorcycle, and it's a little bit more costly. If I want to hook up a camera on the motorcycle, I need to buy like this dual one that has like one in the back, one in the front, and it's not going to record the conversation with the cop because it's not on the helmet. So if I want something on the helmet too, it's going to be super expensive, and it's just not worth it. I'd rather pay the fine because I limit the exposure to the risk of getting fines anyway. And look, I already got several fines before for speeding, for crossing white line, for whatnot. So what would another one do? I mean, yeah, I want to have less charges on your license, but putting now putting like $300 for the camera now, I don't know. Just in order to prove that most times when cop stops you, yeah, he's right, and the camera wouldn't help you. You were actually speeding, or you did cross some line, or you didn't drive according to the rules. So the camera is just there to save you from when the cop is more corrupt than the law. Now, the law itself is corrupt. The whole legal system is corrupt, but the camera thing from when the cop is even more corrupt than that.
So moving on from here. So I think we've talked about the merits or the lack of merits of video recording a cop at the stop. So you make your own personal choice about that, but I'm led to believe it would be easier if you're going down the route of impeachment.
Well, I still have my phone with me, so if a cop stops me, I click record.
Yep.
Audio, just so I have audio.
Well, somebody I heard a conversation many years ago, and this guy, I won't mention the guy's name, fella from the so-called area that's known as Canada, and he said it's like wearing an overcoat. You can choose to wear it when you want and choose to not wear it when you want. It's the same as a mobile phone. You can choose to record, not to record. It's up to you. But if you've got it when you want to use it in court, you've actually got something that you can actually, it's tangible, that you can point the cop. So what the definition of impeachment is essentially, in its most basic form, that there's something erroneous on the record. There's something erroneous. It's not linear. The record isn't linear. At some point in time, somebody strayed outside of the argument. It's not congruent. And to impeach somebody, you're saying to them, I'm impeaching you because, objection motion to impeach because what this guy is saying is not congruent. So what you're looking for is appealable errors. So the due process violations which create appealable errors. And I believe that if you tell a cop, well, my interactions have been, and I'll have them on video, as I say to you, I have some of them, most of them on video, I'd say maybe 7 or 8. But if you tell a cop, if you promise a cop that you're going to impeach him in court, that's when because you can rely on, where they rely on your fear, you're also relying on their fear.
So the definition of impeaching is when the judge decides to not accept the testimony because the witness is untrustworthy, non-trustworthy, is can't be believed.
Well, you're impeaching there based on character.
Well, in case it's just not I'm for the right word. It's outside of his field of expertise. It's not.
Well, the idea, and I first heard this from MArc Stevens when MArc said
qualified to testify to certain matters. So if you talk about law, it doesn't mean that he gets impeached. The judge might say, okay, just strike this from the record and let's continue.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I mean, if a judge is going to strike something from the record, I mean, could it not be a good idea to object to it being stricken from the record based on the fact that it was testimony, it was incorrect testimony, and therefore an objection on a motion to dismiss the case based on the fact that the judge is now modifying the record to suit, and then you can go down the lines of collusion. You can go down the lines of, that all you're doing now is you're just creating more and more aspects for the Supreme Court, because if you're going to go for this stuff, you've got to go all the way. You've got to be prepared to go through contempt. You've got to be prepared to be, jailed. I haven't got to contempt, and I hope I never will.
Let's talk about now. If you're going to talk about being ready to get contempt and get more fines and going to jail and wasting so much time in court because you go to the initial hearing, you go to the actual trial, you go to them to get the verdict, and sometimes you go another time just to hear the punishment, and then you say, okay, I'm going to take this to the upper court, to the higher court. Then you get another day wasted instead of going to job. And this is not just money that you're losing. This is the way that people at your work look at you, and they say, "Oh, this guy is an anarchist and he's missing days at work for his principle. Maybe you just fire him." So there's so much to lose here, and you're talking about getting higher fines and risking going to jail. And I've been threatened with being thrown to the psych ward, and not just me, another friend here in Israel it happened, and it happened in the US. So let's talk about the effectiveness of this whole thing, because they are crooks. They are crooks. They are forcing their stupid laws and their own monopoly of managing the world on us. It's completely based, there's no facts to justify it. No. And even if the cop says 100% right, I saw him speeding and the thing was calibrated. Yeah, it's still stupid law. I mean, not just the law is stupid, but the enforcement is very cynical. And what I mean is they have speeding laws, but they're not going to put a cap down in my street, in the neighborhood, and catch people who drive more than 30 kilometers per hour. Maybe people drive 60 or something in a 30 street, and they're actually risking people. They're not going to do it because they're going to have to hide and wait for a whole day until they maybe catch one car. No, they go to the safest roads with with 3, 4, 5 lanes. They go to the highway. They go when there's not too much traffic, and they're going to hide there because they know that there people are going to be speeding, because there it's safe. People are going to feel like it's perfectly safe if I drive 140 instead of 90, and there they're going to catch you and say you were speeding so fast. So even the enforcement is cynical more than the law. And yeah,
so when you talk about the effectiveness, yes, yeah. I do see people who walk out of court without, and they get the case dismissed. It's never with prejudice. It's never really given a reason why. It's just that the prosecution basically dropped the case.
If you get it dismissed, if you get a speeding, if you tend to speed regularly, and you get caught here and there, it means that you get points on your license. And it's enough that you're caught twice speeding, or 3 times, and you lose your license, and then you have to drive with taxi and waste tons of time on public transportation, which is shit in Israel. So of course, if you can save just the points from getting the points, it's worth it. It's worth 2 or 3 days in court, and you save your license. It's worth it, probably. Yeah, I would say don't speed if you have to spend twice. If you have to go to 2 trials a year, but how many times does it work? How many times it doesn't work? If the chance of it working is low, but you're losing time, and as I said, you're losing days work, which is not something normal people that have a day job can do, then it's just not worth it. And is it promote? It's not worth it on the personal level, on how much you have to win, how much you have to lose. Okay.
Yeah.
If they said, look, we catch you speeding once and you lose your license for 10 years, it's worth it. It's worth even losing your job and keep your license. If you have a 10% chance, maybe go to the court and try it. But the thing is, when you have your initial appearing in court and you file the motion to dismiss based on the fact that the prosecution doesn't have any evidence to show no evidence, no witnesses to show that their law applies, and the judge lets it go and it goes to trial, it means that the judge is corrupt. It means that the judge is going to assume facts that just do not exist for the prosecution, that is willing to make you guilty without having any facts. And then you have the chance, it's so hypocritical. Like they give you the chance to prove yourself guilty, which is impossible. So, yeah, that's it.
It's
in promoting a free society. That's my question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't see a voluntary society coming around anytime soon, because the sheep are dumbed up to the eyeballs, and they almost don't want to be free themselves. So I don't see a voluntary society coming around anytime soon. Something would have to be huge, major, like a meteorite strike or something like that to actually, to end what is now. And then you got that kind of idea of the zombie apocalypse, which is, the reason why they write all those films is because the zombies are all out there. The zombies are all outside. Even myself, some people might class me as a zombie, or because I'm not that clued up. But I see what I see, and I see the court system being corrupt. I see statism being corrupt. I see, and I also do have some of my own double standards within that, but I try to validate those as best as I can. But the idea of having an administrative. I talked to Tom actually about Tom Mix about when you were talking with MArc and you were saying about, what was it now? You were skeptical about liars, and either you said that about public accountability. Something maybe you and Mark were discussing public accountability, and the judge rejecting motions. We know they are corrupt to the core, and I really struggle to deal with corrupt, because there's no way, you just can't deal with a corrupt system. That's most definitely the case. And you see, I see the cops as the coal miners. The cops are at the coal face. They are the beginning of the corruption. And if you can't reject a cop's words, then that's the biggest failure to begin with of anybody's supposed legal argument. If you can't dismiss the cop, and I'm trying to dismiss the cops more and more at the stop. And the one thing, as I say, they're scared of is the cell phone. I'm most definitely scared of the cell phone, which creates a record of due process, erroneous due process, or due process, lack of due process, which creates appealable errors. You know, I think that there's most definitely a case for the use of the. And I know somebody in Ohio, I won't say who it is, but he's southwest of Cleveland, and he himself has recorded the cops. So for people to say, "Oh, America's got all these cops around with guns," well, so has Israel. The UK's got them now. New Zealand's got cops with guns. Australia's got. But I see people all day, every day on YouTube who are filming cops with guns. So for people to say it's too dangerous, I'm over that. I'm over that. I don't buy that crap now. It's too dangerous to film cops with guns. You know, it really. I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. It's safer that you do. You know, the odd person will get shot, and if that's me, well, that's me. But if the cops are going to do that, there'll be a record of it. You know? Okay.
I suggest we take a short break. I'm going to make coffee, and it's good that we cut the recording in the half hours mark, so we can have maybe part 1, part 2, and people don't, because if people see like 1 hour, an hour and a half video, they're like, oh, I have no time for this. And if they see like half an hour, okay, I'll listen to it. Maybe if it's interesting.
Coffee sounds good. I'm going to go and pour myself another glass of wine. I'm taking my time tonight.
Okay, after a good serve it. Okay,
cool.
See you. Okay, we are live again.
Boom, we're on. Can you feel the vibration, the matrix, Eyal?
Got my coffee, so I'm good.
Good health to you there. Good health.
Yeah. Morning here.
Yeah, so...
Morning in Israel, evening in New Zealand.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Israel. So, yeah, in our little... and good evening, New Zealand as well. Kia ora, New Zealand. Yeah. So, kia kaha, New Zealand, kia kaha, Israel. I hope you're strength to you, strength of the people. So, in our little break, in Eyal's coffee break and my little wine refilling session, we just talked about what we're going to talk about next, and we just kind of the idea that just before we go into the ideas of the being aware of the risk, the idea of actually using the impeachment process and the idea of how to impeach the cop on the witness stand, and the issue of, you know, how risky is it? That can come in a second or in a minute's time, or, you know, shortly. But just to get the idea of what the actual impeachment looks like is an important thing, I'm led to believe. So the idea that it's the 4 C's of impeachment. I looked at this earlier and I recently did a bit of research before we talked about this, Eyal. It's called the 4 C's of impeachment. And you can, if you Google how to impeach a witness, you can find it on YouTube, and it says confirm. For first C is confirm. Let me get this straight. You said at the initial hearing, at the initial stop, at the arraignment, whichever process, part of the process you're actually in, confirm. You said. Let me get it straight, because I need to get it straight. Because if it's not straight, it's not congruent. It's not. You're asking leading questions because you want answers from the cop. You want their answers based on the leading question. Let me get it straight. You said. So then you offer the second C, the clue. do you remember giving a deposition or previously testifying in this case that you said that I was being loud and aggressive, but I got it on, you've got a video evidence there from the phone, so you confirm it, get straight. You said, do you remember giving a deposition or previously testifying in this case? Then credit. Third C. In that deposition, you swore to tell the truth. You had an opportunity to correct your statement. You signed it. By signing it, you indicated everything in it was accurate. Then the fourth C. Alert the judge, and the co-counsel, the prosecution of the page, the page number and the line number, etc. Read it to them. Read it back to them. You said on this date, at this point in time, that I was making some weird maneuvers. I wasn't stopping, but the video record actually says, and what doesn't say, the video record shows, it doesn't say, it shows that I did not perform any irregular movement. I didn't do above any kind of speed. I had everything in control. There was nothing wrong, officer. So you said, though, that I was doing all this weird stuff when the video evidence shows that I wasn't. So the video evidence shows I was not doing any of that. Now, I'm saying that your evidence, your suggestions today conflicted what you said yesterday. So yes, so going on to what you're saying, Eyal, yeah, you're gonna get the cops on your back now. They're gonna be pissed off with you. You are being risky.
I gotta stop it because we're having a statist conversation. You're talking about case when a cop says something and when a cop is lying. And those are the rare cases. As I said, the law is stupid and evil. The enforcement is cynical. And what I mean cynical is not just like they make an evil grin on their face, you know. When I mean that they will look for the safest places where they know you're going to make those traffic violations because you feel that the law is stupid, and there they're going to do it. That's the cynical part of the enforcement. And you're talking about cases where, you know, you reach a full stop and this cop says, oh, you didn't do a full stop. So these are just, esoteric cases. Yeah, they happen, but they're rare. And even if we were going to correct those issues with the video camera, we're not really for free, right?
I got you. Okay, start it again. Okay, delete that, start again.
There is no way to delete. That's it. One shot.
Okay, we'll start another recording then. Can you not call me back and start another recording?
No, it's good. It's good. It's good that we're talking about it. It's good that we're bringing this up. I think this is a big part because most statists, they feel like, oh, we have to fix those cases where cops are a little bit corrupt, but cops are corrupt all the time. They do it systematically and legally. So
okay, do you want to talk about then the voluntary society?
Well, no, I want to talk about, impeaching a cop, but you can impeach a cop based on, on two things. Either he says you're driving in a dangerous way and you have a recording that proves you're driving okay, and it's good, and it doesn't mean it gets in. I don't think that it means automatically that it gets impeached. Maybe, sometimes it works. Sometimes you bring the footage from the camera and you get some compensation for your time, and then, it can work, it can happen.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I was like a bit confused there then as to where you wanted to go with it, because if you're talking about impeaching a cop based on their laws and statutes not applying to me because there's no evidence that they apply to me, that's a different situation altogether.
Yeah.
And if you want to go down that route, I could do that, but that's a tried and tested route that Marc's gone down, and already, you see, the thing is, that horse has already been ridden. That boat has already left. Marc's talked about that, the way to, so okay. I mean, that's not impeaching a cop from what I can see.
Okay.
Impeaching a cop is showing on the record where they've claimed something, and it doesn't, and it's not congruently true. It's not true that the cop actually.
Okay, I see what you mean.
You see, that's what you see. Most, I mean, if you want to try and impeach a cop based on saying that the laws don't apply, well, that's never going to. I cannot see that ever happening in a court. A court's not going to admit ever that the laws don't apply because the laws don't actually exist. That's not going to happen.
Because there's no evidence to show that the law applied to you. Yeah, they're not going to do it, of course.
Yeah, so I can see why you stopped it, and I agree. But that ship's already sailed. The MArc Stevens ship has already sailed for the one where we go, oh, hang on, I want to ask only one question. Do you have any evidence that the laws and statutes apply to me just because I'm physically in the state of Georgia? That's obviously there's no evidence that the laws apply because I'm physically in the state of Georgia. But that's not impeaching a cop. Impeaching a cop is saying to him on the witness stand, you claim this. But if you want me to talk about impeaching a cop by saying, do the laws and statutes apply to me just because I'm physically in the state of Arizona? You claim they were, but that's a really hard form of impeachment, I reckon.
Well, the idea of in MArc Stevens' method, well, you ask the witness, the cop, for evidence to back up his initial claim that you broke the law, and then what happens is that the judge and the prosecutor jump and say, no, he's not qualified to testify to those matters, but the whole case is built on him making that legal determination to begin with. Then if they don't allow him to testify on it, you have to strike the initial testimony, which is the ticket, and that's the way you impeach the cop according to MArc Stevens' method. I don't think it's going to happen, not because it's not correct, not because it's not true. It's very accurate and the right thing to do, but because these people are so corrupt that if you got to a trial already, so you passed the arraignment, they know that you already challenged the jurisdiction and the applicability of the law on the initial hearing, and they denied. They say no. We do, like they said, we don't need evidence to decide that you're guilty. That we can assume some factual thing is true without having the facts. So you already passed that point. So there is a risk that you're taking when you say, okay, I'm going to take it to trial, is that before the actual trial, the initial hearing is not a trial. The arraignment is not called a trial. And at the end of the arraignment, you can say, you know what? I'll plead guilty if you just give me the original fine, because I don't want to waste more time, and I don't want to get a higher fine. I don't want to get a higher punishment, a larger punishment from you. But if you go to trial, there's no way back. They can give you 3 times the fine that you could have paid because you wasted the court's precious time, and that's you're taking it, and you already know that they're lying, and they have no problem with lying, and that's it. So I think it's pointless. Now it's still worth going to the arraignment, because then you don't take a chance. Many times, not most of the time, but many times you don't have a larger risk. You do many times if it's not the first violation of that type, and then they say, oh, judge, but we cannot give him the original fine because it's not the first time that he's speeding. Then you're going to get a higher fine after even if it's just an arraignment. So there's many cases that you don't want to even go to arraignment. Even if you're right and like you say, you have on footage. Now let's put MArc Stevens' method aside. Even if it's like your case where you say, oh, well, I have a video evidence that proves, I'm innocent. I say in that case, go to court and do it. It's worth it. Bother the system. In general, when you bother the system, when you make it more expensive for them to do it, when you make it more complicated, when you expose more lies, it's good for us, for anarchists, to show how corrupt the system is. It's good. But
sure. What's the I mean, if we talked about impeaching a cop, right? So just for instance, so if you were to start the video again, right, and record it, say part 2, it wouldn't be any different to what Marc's already said. So I'm trying to go down a little bit of a different side road to what Marc's saying, because I'm trying to expose the cops and the judicial system as liars. I'm trying to get them on the record for showing that they've made due process violations, which are appealable errors. And that's what I want on the record. I can go in there as a second. The evidence of jurisdiction, the questions around that, that's a secondary thing. I want to go in to begin with and use their own laws and statutes, what they say, their own ordinances and their own rules against them, because I'm going to show that they most definitely have double standards. Their own standard is what I'm trying to hold them to. I'm trying to hold them to their standards first, because their standards are what generally the public believe in. Mm-hmm. And if I can prove and show that they have their own double standards, I can see and I can show and prove and tell the public then, hang on a minute, everything that you've believed in is actually fallacious. It's incorrect. It's not true. It's not factual. It's not facts in evidence. And the people are more, I reckon the people I talk to are more about to buy into that than they are to buy into evidence of jurisdiction. Because if they can see that a cop has, I said this to, give me a second. I showed you last night how those two badges. I showed you last night those two badges. You know, if I can prove fundamentally the cops are saying that they have abilities rights that we don't have. They have abilities because I don't carry a handgun, I don't carry cuffs, I don't have steel-toe cap boots. But if I can prove to the general public, this is what I wanted to get in the second part of the segment, the second half an hour. If I can, or under half an hour, if I can prove that the cops say that they can do things that I can't and you can't, then the general public are going to buy into that more than talking about evidence of jurisdiction. Because most people can't even fucking spell jurisdiction. But if we break it, if you and I break it down to layman's terms, real small segments, people may start to understand what we're trying to say here.
I completely agree. That's something that, you know, I always try to keep my language simple, not only because I have a really poor language anyway, but it helps me. It's like a curse which is a blessing. You know, like I have a poor language, and it means that everybody understands me and understands me very good what I mean. Because, you know, when I say, oh, the applicability of the law, people get confused. They think like, oh, the law applies because the cop applies to you, because applies can mean many things.
Well, they're going to say to you, well, of course, if you use the word applicability of the law, they'll say, of course it applies because it's the law. And you go, well, but that's not, I mean, I've got some time to start now. I could do another less than half hour if you wanted to, just on that, if you wanted to. I'm willing to give up my time if you got 20, 25 minutes just to try and nail that out. Because nobody's ever spoke about what you and I just talked about. Nobody ever talked about simplifying it down to double standards. If they say this, they give the American people have the Fourth Amendment to be free of warrantless search and seizures. Yet they go, oh, okay, I'll just comply because that's what the law says. But nobody says, hang on a minute, where's the double standard in here? Can I go and ask the cop to show me what's in his car?
Yeah, it's always, statism is always about the double standard. You know, I wrote an article recently about, you know, this whole thing, explaining people through traffic tickets, how and parking tickets, how this whole system is bullshit, how they can make up laws and just, you know, and laws that are completely a joke, like the drug war or the speeding tickets and everything. And people come, and statists wrote me back with sort of justifications of like, oh, well, we need to enforce the whole set of rules on people, because we cannot say, oh, you can just decide what rule to obey and with what rule not, because then people are going to murder, and we can't, you know, if you can't enforce one rule, you cannot enforce all the rules. So we have to agree with them enforcing all the rules, and that's my justification for what the state is doing. And I'm like, no, you're lying, because if I use that argument for my actions, you will not accept it. So now we know that you support the state not because of this argument, but because of double standards, because there's something else that you're not really telling me that makes you support them, their actions, but not mine. If any argument that people are going to give you for what the state is doing, maybe they're going to say it's a necessity, it's the majority will, it's whatever, yeah? When you say it, it's not a good argument. The same exact argument. So it boils down to double standards.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, I'd say, I mean, I'm out of other suggestions at the moment. But if you want to do a quick segment on double standards, I don't mind doing that.
Take the lead. Take the lead.
Okay. I mean, are we recording now?
We are all done. We're 17 minutes into the second part.
I didn't even know. So, I mean, if people get to watch this now, we're going to talk about this idea of double standards. I didn't even realise that we're actually still recording, which is a good thing, really, because, you know, there you go. Eyal's been up front and he's just not stopped. He said to me, you get one chance at it. And that's particularly true. And that's a bit of a bonus, I reckon. So we're just talking about the idea of double standards. And let me just get two things. So I'm going to get two things. I'm going to be like 10 seconds. Bear with me. I've shown this to Eyal before. And this is really, really important. The people understand this. The badge. That's the right way around now. The sheriff's badge that's pink. Make your own assumptions about that. And then the shiny Chinese police, or made in China, police play badge. Now, I don't get to understand how the cops believe that these aren't real. Because when I say to a cop, well, hang on a minute, they say, well, they aren't real. Well, bend over and I'll smash these into your face and then tell me how real they are when your nose is broken. And there's also, what's reality? They say, well, I don't know, you know, well, what makes your badge so real? And I'll say, well, hang on a minute, what makes your badge real? And they say, well, the government, this thing called the government, with men and women in suits and robes with guns, says to people that they have the authority to give people these so-called abilities. They aren't rights. The cops say, well, we have a right. No, you don't have a right. You have an ability to carry a gun or a weapon that I don't possess. So I say to them, okay, so what's that?
Justification, or to make it even.
Justification, yeah, there you go.
Simple word, not justification. A good reason to. They have a good reason to.
So these things called badges are justifications, and and then they wear hats and masks and things that look like this that people say, that are justifications that allow them to do things that I've got a right mask actually, but I'm not going to go. So the point of the matter is, is that these so-called people in badges with guns and rifles and machine guns and badges and things, they say, well, where do you get that right? So the government, okay, great, thank you for your answer. We're starting to get a conversation going. And you say to them, well, where does government get its right from? Well, here in this place so-called New Zealand, they say either the Queen or the people give okay, can I speak to the people? Oh, you can't speak to the people. There's too many of them. Can I speak to government? Well, they're all in bed now, so you can't speak to them either. Well, where does the government and the people get their right from? Oh, God. Oh, wonderful. Can I speak to God now? No, you can't speak to God. Don't be so silly.
2,000 years back in history.
Woohoo! This thing called God that gives people badges, and God, therefore, I mean, I never saw a big hand come through the cloud and go, here's a badge for policeman. So it's this thing again. So what I'm concentrating on now is this issue of double standards. How do they get an ability or the justification, as you say, Eyal, to do whatever they want to do that I can't do myself? They say to me, you have no right. I say, I agree. But where do you get this so-called right, this so-called justification to do things? And oh, well, you know what? You have no right. You've just got something that a bunch of people down in the capital or up in wherever the capital is, that a bunch of idiots voted for, and they said they now have the authority to delegate guns and weapons and badges to other people that I don't have. Well, to them, I say, fuck you. And I'm sorry for my language there. It's the first time I've sworn today. So a big F you, man, and give them the finger, because they have no inherent God-given rights at all ever to do what I can't. I hope that makes sense.
And I would always simplify and clarify that by right, I mean a good reason to. A good reason to.
Yeah.
And what would be a good reason to? Like, what would be a good reason to snatch an old woman's purse? There's no good reason to do it unless she stole the purse from another old lady. Then you want to snatch it from her and bring it to the original owner, right? Like, it's very, easy to debate, what's a good reason to do something. And when you talk about rights, you talk about very abstract idea, but when you clarify it and stick to a good reason to, then you can keep the debate on simple and clear terms and words.
Is this any more different to the double standards of taxation? Well, taxation, well, if I took a third of your money in, and people will say, you know, I've got my own double standard, and I'm not talking about my own double standards at the minute. I'm talking about their double standards. The point of matter is, they say, well, hang on a minute, you know, if I took 30% of Eyal's money, Eyal would rightly call me a thief, and rightly so, and should be able to beat the shit out of me until he gets his money back. When the government does it, they just change the word from theft to taxation. And it's a really, it's a simple, it's not even a conundrum. It's not even something that people should be able to get their head around. It's something that's really easy, and it should make sense to you. And if it doesn't, and it doesn't make sense to, oh, well, it's the government. They don't realise that government is a compartmentalisation of two words. Well, it's a compound, it's a compound. Govern, control, ment from the Latin mind. Parliament is two words. Parler in French is my second language. Parler to speak, liement to lie. Parliament to speak and lie. There you go. If that's not enough for people to actually get their head around and go, hang on a minute, you know, is this really true? Yeah, it's called a compound. Lots of words are compound, even in Hebrew. You look at your Hebrew words, you look at your French words. It's a compound. There's a lot of compounds in words, and people don't understand this etymology. They go, oh, you know, don't matter. It just is. I saw this woman that was on from the UK. She was posting stuff about Brexit and Tommy Robinson and this, that, and the other. And she said something about, she started off with, well, the royal family are a given, and it's something that we've just got to accept now, and we have to move on from that. And I was like, no. If you're so dumb that you have to accept that there's people that they believe that they are better than you. Nobody's better than me. Nobody's better than my family. There may be some people out there, Eyal, you're as good as me. You're a good guy. You apply the non-aggression principle. That's fine. What is it with these people that want to sell their souls away? What is it with these people? They want to sell their souls to the devil for a few dollars and pounds and, you know, rubles and, you know, what is it, shekels, and what is it with these people? They want to actually sell themselves down the road. They don't care about their family. They don't care about themselves, and they purport to be royalists, or they love the government. You know, all the government is just a new form of royalty that revolves. It's a revolving form of royalty. You know, every 4 years they get to be replaced, and then they put people in positions of power, and they call them the police, policy officers. And this one for Tom Mix. Tom, if you see this one, I was doing the policy officers years ago. You know, they are statutory policy enforcers. They actually enforce government policy. You know, big shout out to Bow as well. You know, Bow gets anything to do with this, probably won't, but if you do, Bow, you know, you're doing a good job there. You know, these people going around, they're actually holding these police officers to account, these cop watchers. You know, I'd like to see more people in Israel do this. New Zealand is bereft of people that want to actually, you know, take back their own power. New Zealand's just bereft. Australia, there's a few there. The UK, yeah. A lot of guys in Australia, so in the US.
That's a big problem with people who are already anarchists. They're already getting it, and then they're not actually putting an actual effort. That put time, put money, put resources, take some fucking risk. Be a man, unless you're a woman. Be a woman. Be a human being. Take some fucking risk. I don't mean take the chance that you'll end up in jail for years or even a day. You know, some of us cannot even risk a day in prison. If you have pets at home, if you have children depending on you, you cannot go to jail. But you can take the risk of getting to pay a double fine, you know, getting a triple fine. I once took a ticket to court. It was 250 shekels after 3 hearings at court, each time half a day of work wasted. And I just had to put those hours to stay longer hour at court to make up for those hours, yeah? But, and I ended up paying 3 times that fine. Okay, but I did my part of activism. And hopefully when one day I have children, I'll be able to tell them, you know, Daddy did his part, you know, he put his effort. And look, in Israel, people, the statists, the majority of people, they go to the army because there's a forced conscription here. They are being forced to go to the army, even if they don't like it. And they consider it a donation to the society, donating their best years, and they do it happily, and they feel a part of it. What's up with all the voluntarists? Why don't they feel part of the voluntarist movement? take some fucking risk. Soldiers go to fight, to deal with terrorists, and they're getting shot, and they're taking real risk. You can go to court and tell them, like, I want to see evidence that your law applies to me. It's so difficult. It's just such a risk that you cannot really take. I mean, I quit the army after 10 months. Before even I was an anarchist, because I realized that I'm being treated like a slave, and it is not really serving anyone. So if you're an anarchist and you didn't go to the army in Israel, why cannot put one day, can you put a little bit of money? I mean, people go to the army and they make really slave wage. They get like salary from the army. They get paid peanuts for their best years. Okay, or maybe not their best years because they don't have a profession, but even if they do have a profession, they get paid peanuts. So, like I'm doing a fundraiser now to print a small book that I've translated, and it's really going to help us advance the ideas of voluntarism. And I've got 2,700 people like my page, the No State Project Israel. Now, most of them are just people that once in their life they click like, and they're probably not getting the post. But I do get sometimes dozens of likes, and I know that there are dozens of followers, of regular followers. How many people are going to put a few shekels on this project? For not including me, not including me.
This is the point. I mean,
I put dozens of hours already into preparing this book, and I threw some shekels in order to print some samples and test, and just 4 people said they're going to put money, and we can't finish the project because of it. I got a serious problem of not being able to put money where the mouth is.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I know people who trade unionists that aren't they're in the trade union, but they're not prepared to strike. And I say to them, but don't you see? Number one, you don't mind accruing the benefit of what your brother and your sister did, what you call your brother and your sister, your old comrade. That's shit. Your comrade lost wages for you to get an increase, and then by the time they were striking, you weren't even bothering. What's the point? You're just a limp-wristed, hand-wringing liberal. Oh yeah, but I can't afford it. Oh well, do you know what? Just go and ball your head. That's the best thing for you, because you aren't a contributor. You don't contribute to this almost class action of voluntarism. You know what? I'd be even more into voluntarism if I saw a lot more people do what I did. I'm not saying to people go out there and get arrested. I'm not saying do that. Obstruction in New Zealand, if you get the wrong judge at the wrong time, I think carries a sentence of 7 years.
$5 a month onto the cause. Put $10 a month onto the cause. That's all to begin with. Not even that. Not even
these
that.
people. These people aren't interested, and yet these people are the biggest moaners. They go, "Oh, I got pulled over yesterday by a guy with a badge." I'm saying to them, "Yeah, but did you go down the $2 shop and buy? Did you buy 2 badges? Did you explain to the cop why he has no authority? Why he's only got perceived power? Why he's got these?" And they stand there knock-kneed, pigeon-toed, and they, I'm sorry. You're sorry for your life. Shut up. Go away. Ball your head. I'm now so unsympathetic to people that want to believe that they are entitled. They're snowflakes. And at the end of the day, it's probably the whole system's going to come for me as well. It is for you, more than likely. And it's because of snowflakes. But at the end of the day, the one thing that I will laugh my ass off, Eyal, is when it comes to them, I go, do you know what? You screwed yourself. You screwed, not you, I'm talking about them. You screwed yourself by your misplaced compassion, by your stupidity, by your ignorance, by your lack of intellect that you did to yourself. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry to them. I'll say, do you know what? When the next round of mass execution comes around, or whatever it is that the New World Order has planned for us, I'll say, do you know what? You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself and your kids. And that's the thing. You know what I can't believe? I can get the idea of the narcissist doing it to himself. But if you have kids, so when you have kids, Eyal, which I'm They may be around the corner quite soon, hopefully for you. But when you have kids, I can guarantee you 100%, Eyal, you would never ever let them down. You would never ever let them down. You might let yourself down, and your missus might let herself down. You might let each other down, but you'd never let your kids down. I will go to my grave now before I let my son down. I could never let him down, ever. And these hand-wringing liberals that are going, oh, yeah, well, do you know what? But I'm not going to swear, F you. F you, man, you know. You're selling yourself down the river. And if you're not recording the cops, if you're not getting them on point, and if you're not keeping them on the record, you're failing the system. You are allowing this New World Order global elite steamrolling government to basically just take over everything, the very limited things that we have. I'm about done.
Yeah. When we have such a tough case, you know, society is built there's a layer of, you know, we are the smart ones, right? Like we make good arguments, we respect good arguments, we make and we accept good arguments. We are so few in this society, and above us, yep, there's a layer of people who are intelligent but not smart.
Yep.
It's not a little. They're the ones who really lead the economy, fill the high-tech sector, and they're intelligent. They can come up with good answers, but they're just not asking the right questions. That's what differentiates the intelligent from the smart, because we ask the right questions. Doesn't matter if you're that right about bringing the best answer. We start with the right question. So that's what really makes it smart. Now, above the intelligent, there's a huge layer of people who are even not even intelligent. They are pedantic. They're pedants. All they have to do is like follow the book. What the book said, the book is right. You know, who's a philosopher? Well, philosopher is Nietzsche. Philosopher is Platon, and because all the philosophers of the past, the ones that are, you know, they have a name already, and they all died, so you cannot talk to them. They cannot debate each other. So, well, since only they can be accepted as having the correct opinion, and because they contradict each other, then there is no objective truth, because, you know, all the truth that you can point to is what's written and established, you know, and taught in the university, and it's contradicting, you know, they contradict each other. So there is no absolute truth. There is no objective truth, and these are, you know, a large sector of society, and above them, there's a huge sector, maybe 50%, maybe 30% of people who don't even have respect to logic at all. Like they don't respect anything.
Let me just interject on that one point there. When you said about objective, that is the objective of the statist. The objective of the statist is to objectify what is not true, and they try to make it. Well, hang on, it's the law. The law said that's what you have to do. Well, when, where, who, what? You know, that whole idea of Rudyard Kipling. You know, I knew, you know, so many men or whatever it is, 5 men, and they taught me all I knew. Their name was what, where, when, why, and who in that business. Who wrote the law? Who wrote this thing called the law? Even God. Bring God here as a witness. I want to cross-examine God.
The percentage of people who can understand what you're saying and keep thinking along that route, like asking themselves the right questions, we're very few. And if that very few are not going to actually put effort into expanding and growing, and it's screwed.
Well, this is something as well that big shout to Shelby if he's around. But when he'll get to hear this, but when Shelby reminded us of what MArc Stevens said about a good faith effort, a good faith effort goes a long way. And Tom Mix loved the words good faith effort. He loves that. A good faith effort goes a long, long way. In you know, let's forget the law. Let's just talk about good faith. And let's not talk about being not faith in what, you know, God and that. Let's just talk about a good effort by individual to do the right thing. And I hear you said it a lot of times. I hear Robbie say it. I hear Mark say it. Tom, you know, and those guys, they say about this idea of we all know what reasonable is. You know, we all know what reasonable is. And you know, and if we don't know, if we're beyond the boundaries of reasonable and reason, well, we just screwed anyway. So there's no point. So when you said a good faith effort, let's make, get the judge on a good faith effort. Let's just say to the judge, is what you're doing really fair? Is it really reasonable? Is it really? Come on. And the other one is as well, corpus delicti, valid cause of action, let's talk about those two things, because at the end of the day, it's that the third point is a key point of the valid cause of action, the redressability. If somebody's legal right has been stamped upon, or it's been infringed, that's the first part. Then the second is that there's a victim, there's harm, there's loss. But the third part is redressability. And if the judge isn't going to allow me to I'm sorry for doing 31 and the 50. I'm 31 and the 30. Can you not give me a record? And can I just go and plant some trees? Can I go and help out at the disabled home? Can I do something to redress what you said was wrong? Even if it was wrong, can I just say, I'm really sorry, Judge. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry for all this. I don't want to have a record. Can I go and help out at the hospital? Can I go and push people around in wheelchairs for an hour a day for the next week? What are you fining me for? Am I that much of a heinous individual that you just want to jail me? I'm sorry, Judge. And the thing is, that should start.
They're disgusting people. The judges are the most degenerate people of all society, because they would never do it. They would never say, "Oh, you know what? It makes sense. What you just said makes sense to a 6-year-old. It makes sense to everybody besides two kinds of people, judges and prosecutors."
Well, have you ever heard anybody say what I've just said in a courtroom? I've never heard anybody ask for redressability. Okay, Judge, I reckon a corpus delicti. For a corpus delicti, you must have the first three elements of a valid cause of action. Go and look up Democratic Underground, type in valid cause of action, Democratic Underground in your browser, and it'll come up. And then it gives you the three parts to a valid cause of action: that a legal right has been impeded, type thing, or it's been, trodden upon, and and then it gives you that there's the next part is the idea of what is it? That's there's a victim or harm or loss, and the last one is the remedy, the redressability. How many people have I seen in court? They'll say, "Judge, I recognise, I'm probably been a bit out of order. I was doing 50 and a 30. I'm sorry. Hands up. I'll fall on the mercy of the sword of the court. Fine. Can I go and do something to redress that? I don't want a fine. I don't want a conviction against my name. Can you just give me this like a quick summary judgment?
Instead of sitting in prison, I'll help old people in the old people's home, or go to volunteer in a hospital. No, because they don't give a shit about people. They don't give a shit about.
Yeah, but the thing is, what I said,
they don't give a shit about anyone.
I agree. And the thing, but I said to somebody the other day, I said to them, do you know what? It's this, when you're, in gainful employment or whatever they say. And this person said to me, "Oh, well, she was like, oh." I said, "What have you done about it?" And she went, "Nothing." I said, "Well, do you know what the definitions are? If you do something, the definition of being, a definition of fool is doing the same thing twice or more and expecting a different result, But if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. What? I'm over a lot of people, man. Other than my immediate family and immediately close friends, I'm over a lot of people, because people are stupid, man. People are inherently stupid. Hence, therefore, I'm sick of 99% of humanity.
And this is exactly why I think it is important to do the MArc Stevens thing, and to go to court and to actually fight those tickets and whatever, not just hire a lawyer, because you are bringing more facts, you're bringing more evidence how corrupt and rotten the system is, rotten from the core. And that's why it's really worth even getting more damages. Don't do it every time. Do it once a year. Do it once in 5 years. It's important that we challenge the system, that we expose the corruption and the evil of the system. That's why, when people tell me, "Oh, it's not worth it. You're not going to get any results." Yeah, you might come up with more damages, but you're exposing the system for what it is, and it's important, because otherwise, if we wouldn't do it, how would you know that it's true when you say, "Oh, judges are corrupt, judges are evil," and you have no way of proving it? So you need to get those evidence. I think it's important that Some people do it. At least some of the times, some of the people need to do it. And this
well,
is
just go back to the the idea of the before there were when people believed that the universe, the galaxy wasn't heliocentric, and they said the sun flies around the Earth, and then somebody said, hang on a minute, we can't go over the edge of the Earth, because if we do, then there's dragons and there's fire and brimstone at the edge there. There'll be all manner of crap we don't like. And then somebody said, well, hang on a minute, I'm gonna have a go. And you have people like Galileo Galilei, and you have people like Socrates, Plato, burnt at the stake as heretics. My point is with this is, if you don't suck that sweet, you don't know what it tastes like. So I'm not advocating anybody go out there and get arrested. Please don't do that, because that's a stupidity, and I've been like that myself, But the point of the matter is, if you don't actually demonstrate, remonstrate, and ask questions about what is actually going on outside the front door, you're screwed. If people aren't trying to, that's like going for a curry, man, and saying, you know what, I don't know what a curry tastes like. Well, have you tasted one? No. Have you ever questioned that these officers of the law and ever gone to the $2 shop and bought yourself plastic badges? Oh no! And then the knees knock, the toes go pigeon toes, shoulders fall. Oh, oh, shut up! You're just a waste of space, and you're sucking. That they are sucking air, Eyal, that I've got no time for. Sorry for ranting.
Until most, not most people. There are, when who becomes an anarchist? Well, people who are already at the fringes of society to begin with. They are the first ones to be able to see how wrong it is. So that's what we have. A lot of people who are not of the best kind that are in this movement, and we sort of have this garbage people that really, they know what's wrong and are not willing to put any effort into it. We have many of them, but there's also a very big sector of people who, like us, are sort of libertarians, and they see what's wrong, but they still believe that voting can bring a change. And when you believe that voting can fix everything, you're not going to take you're not going to put more money and time, because you think, through voting we will get a libertarian government, and in time we'll get rid of all government and privatize everything, because it's going to be so much better. And if you have this magic diet, if you have like magic diet pills, you're never going to count calories. You're never going to exercise, because you have a magic diet pill called voting. And
and this is what's happening in the UK at the moment. Everybody thinks that these ministerial the European Parliament, if we all vote for the Brexit Party, we're going to get a different outcome. Well, hang on a minute. You had there was the BNP, then the EDL, then there was there's the Britain First. You had all these parties. The question I asked them is, did you ever not have your money stolen? Were you ever not taxed under any of these systems? Were you ever not arrested for not paying, not giving tax? Well, no. It doesn't change. I say to my parents, it doesn't change. Go vote if you want to, but you're just wasting your time. Go for a hamburger instead. Go for coffee. There's no point.
No, look, I'm not saying voting is bad and voting doesn't do anything. Maybe voting limits. Makes you get the lesser evil. Go vote, but don't expect voting to fix the system. It just maybe slows down the disease. It doesn't heal it. It doesn't prevent it. It doesn't stop it. It maybe slows it down, maybe. So go vote for what you believe in. If you believe that voting for Trump is good, if you believe that voting for Brexit is going to help you, go ahead and do it. No problem. I even recommend that you do it if you believe that it's the right thing to do, but don't put all your eggs in that basket. Don't think that it's going to, that now you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to argue. You don't have to put resources and take some risk. No, I mean, that's And a lot of libertarians in Israel, at least, they are mocking the Knesset project for doing all those things. They're saying, "Oh, you're taking extreme risk, and you're getting, more damages from the court system." And they only look at you as ridiculous. Yeah, they will look at you as ridiculous. But if all you're doing is voting, then you're really stuck. They really.
Well, it's the whole idea of
illusion.
It's the whole idea of the illusion, and the whole idea of voting. Realistically, and I'm not sure the etymological word that voting comes from. And I could look that up, but I'm not going to go into it. I'll just explain the concept. It realistically means giving your power, your inherent power that resides in you as a hunter-gatherer, all that kind of business that we were, to somebody else to decide what you're going to get. As opposed to being the person that sourced food for your family. To me, the ultimate anarchist would be the mountain man, the guy that lived in the mountains in somewhere like, I don't know, say, I'm trying to think now, the Appalachian Trail. So take the Appalachian Trail, somewhere in the Appalachian Trail that runs, all the way south to north, north south. He lived in the mountains. He basically cut his own log cabin. He put it together. He put it by a river so he'd get water source that wasn't polluted. He had his own source of food, be it vegetarian, vegan food, or he wanted a meat source, protein-based, whatever. He married a woman who then he had children with. He built a stockade. She raised the children. I'm a chauvinistic pig. I must be, because obviously I'm talking about the man does the heavy work, the woman does, some women like to do heavy work as well, and some men want to raise kids. That's fine, but that's the ultimate anarchist, in my opinion. The bloke that lives in the Appalachian Trail. He doesn't work for the government. He doesn't deal in money. He doesn't go to fiat currency banks. He deals in pelts and bullets, and that's what he does. That's the ultimate anarchist.
I have to disagree with you. I think you could be a perfect anarchist, while still, living with fiat currency, living in a city. I don't think it makes you less of an anarchist. But it's a whole different issue, and I want to end the video because it will be too long, and then nobody will see it. So
yeah, superb. Listen, Eyal, thank you.
Okay, so it was fun and really important. We covered some important points. Should do it again.
Do it again, man. Cheers. Send me the link.
Good night.
Cheers, Eyal. Good night. Take care.